Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for being with us. We'll take a look at some newspaper headlines and then some online stories from citynewsroom.com and then citybusinessnews.com. We're going to start with the Daily Graphic. The Daily Graphic has it here. Chinese woman in rosewood saga deported. That story is on page 3. We'll be taking a look at that later. Police take delivery of 250 body cameras. That story is on page 16. Compute pensions on salaries, allowances. It's coming from stakeholders, and that story is on page 3. Finally, arrest Echoing Hills staff management, Child Rights International demands. That story is on page 20 of the Daily Graphic. Now we'll take a look at the Ghanaian Times. Media Foundation for West Africa urges government to protect journalists against attacks. That story is on page 7. Low pension payments. Panelists call for change in workers' contributions. That story is on page 16. And finally, press receives credentials of 4 envoys. That story is on page 17 of the Ghanaian Times. Now we'll go on to the new crusading guide. Torture home 4. Orphan child eats own feces. Man of God in abuse galore. That's a very sad story here on the front page of the New Crusading Guide, and you can read more on that inside the newspaper on page 3. Drama at Echoing Hills. I was beaten, arrested, detained at the police station and forced to write false statement in relation to torture home. Orphan boy cries out. Arrest Reverend Lamina. Gender minister charges police. Now we'll go on to the Chronicle. Rules of court are not to be prostituted. That's coming from a judge. You can't move cargo in the night from Tema Harbor. And that stories on pages 2 and 3. 86% of Ghanaians not on any pension scheme. That story is on page 14. Stop lobbying for IGP post. That's coming from Superintendent Avui, and that story is on page 14. Now, finally, there's a story here by Ebo Kwanzaa on the back page that said, uninspiring Black stars move on. We know yesterday they did us well by winning, and Thomas Partey and Jordan Ayew were the stars of the show yesterday. But let's go on to the Gold Street business. Government allocates 2 oil blocks, 3 more to be auctioned next year. That story is on page 2. Government incurring huge demurrage charges while seeking import duty exemptions. That story is on page 2 as well. Investors oversubscribe ESLA 10-year bond. That story is also on page 4 of the Gold Street business. Now we'll take a look at our final newspaper and then take a look at some online stories. Final newspaper is The Finder. The Finder has it here. 2 oil blocks taken. Negotiations set to begin. That story is on page 2. NPP sets 28 September for primaries at constituencies without MPs. That story is on page 4. National Security denies torturing Modern Ghana deputy editor, and that story is on page 5. Now, finally, Kokoko Charities Foundation donates 35 incubators outdoors fund scheme. So that story is also on page 4 of the Finder newspaper. Now we'll take a look at online stories, starting with citynewsroom.com. Investigate torture claims by journalists, kidnap suspects. That's coming from security analyst Adam Bona. Helena Huang deported after rosewood smuggling case. That you can read more about that. We'll be looking at that later on in the show. Plans for new parliament chamber a shame. That's coming from Honorable Al-Hassan Suhini. Investigate torture claims by journalists. Kidnap suspects. That's coming from the security analyst Adam Bona, as I mentioned earlier. Allow journalists to operate with maximum freedom. It's coming from Media Foundation of West Africa. And finally, assault on journalist. Kandapa must resign. That's coming from Agalga. And we'll be taking a look at that story right after we take a look at some business news. Now take a look at business news from citybusinessnews.com. Oil exploration, Tullow fails to make it to next round of competitive bidding. SNIT to seize lump sum pension payment from 2020 Employment Minister. And of course, you can get all of your business news from citybusinessnews.com and all of your news from citynewsroom.com. Now, throughout the news review, if you have any questions or contributions for us, we want to hear from you. So use the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832, and I'll be sure to read them. Now, I have been joined by Nana Oye Lithur, who is the former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? I'm good.
I'm fine. Hi, good morning. How are you?
Good. I've also been joined by Joyce Zempare, who is MPP's Deputy National Director of Communications. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. Now, as I mentioned earlier, throughout the news review, if you want us to hear from you, use the hashtag Breakfast Daily for us to hear, and the WhatsApp line again is 0550-585-832. Now, our first topic is assault on journalists. And Honorable Agalga is saying that Kandapa must resign. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com, and it says here, the ranking member of Parliament's Defense and Interior Committee, James Agalga, is calling for the resignation of the National Security Minister, Albert Kandapa. Now, this is linked to, so he's going here, and I'll quote him briefly. It says here, ModernGhana allegedly published something against him, and by the him, he's referring to Albert Kandapa. And if it's how he abuses his power, send people to ransack their office without a search warrant, without arrest warrant. If he was unaware of those carried out the unlawful arrest and searches, then what steps has he taken? He has interdicted some of his subordinates. Well, has he indicted some of his subordinates? He's asking. And he finally says that, well, when he says that Mr. Agalga responded in affirmative, saying that it's a resignation will send a certain signal that you cannot abuse the law of this country and get away with it no matter your status in this society. So he's saying that Mr. Kandapa's resignation will send a certain signal that you cannot abuse the law of this country and get away with it no matter your status in society. So I'll start with Nana Oye on this. We know that what happens to the ModernGhana journalist is wrong. A lot of agencies have come out to call against it, Media Foundation of West Africa amongst others, and we are asking that, is it a bit of a stretch for Honorable Agalga to ask for the resignation of Honorable Kandapa? So I'll start with you, Joyce, on this story.
Good morning to yourself, to my colleague and your crew, and then good morning to our cherished viewers. This is how far the Lord has brought us. At least we are counted among the living, and we owe it up to Him. Good morning, Mr. President. This is your time. It is by God's doing that today. You are in the reins of national affairs. We pray that the good Lord who has brought him this far continue to give him the wisdom, the direction to focus on ModernGhana. At the end of it, we'll give glory to God.
Amen.
Well, this issue about a journalist being manhandled, allegedly being manhandled, I have listened to
both sides.
I've followed the crisscross on the social media platforms and things. And a few questions I want to also put across. One, we know the president in the Hymns of Affair was one person who led to the repeal of the criminal libel law. It's one person who has fought for the rights of citizenry. He's been a human rights activist. He's fought on the streets, both and everywhere he's had opportunity. So he's one person you cannot say will stand up and fight against the rights of the media. No. Because in anything you do, you need people to criticize you, to give you the directions. And like our own adage says, the one leading the affairs doesn't know that, look, you have a crooked path behind you. It is right for people to criticize. It is right for people to air their views, but it should be constructive criticism. Well, I'm not here. In fact, I don't have so much details about whatever is happening. But like I said, reading and listening across board, there are a few things I need to ask. Because any time any security man walks into, like you were discussing this morning, into your premises, the first thing is for you to ask for the identity of that person. And if it is not a murder case or something, you have, is it 24 or 48 hours to report yourself to university, or you can tell, you can seek for your counsel to be around. You understand, so that nobody takes you around for you to go and put anything on paper. Because whatever, like you said, whatever you say or whatever you put on paper will be held against you in the court of law. So, and then you heard the gentleman coming out to say that he was manhandled when they went to the national security premises. And then there was this issue of him going to seek medical examination. But we know when you go to the police hospital, to be precise, and when there's any assault cases, you need the police to give you a medical form for you to go for the medical examination. And based on their report, you take it back to the police station or wherever you have to take it to. Well, I heard that he went seeking this medical examination without any forms. And he was asked that, look, you need a police medical examination form for us to give proper recording on whatever we're looking for. So it makes the whole issue a bit muddy. You don't get the gist of it.
But should our national security operatives take the law into their own hands, walk into somebody's place without presenting any form of ID, arrest them without even telling them why they are being arrested, go ahead to put a plastic bag over their heads? Well, this is all according to the editor of Modern Ghana. But do they have any rights? And we have, just a couple of months ago, on the day of the Ayawa's West Ogun election, you were here with us that day. A few hours after that, a member of parliament was slapped by a man who's part of the national security operatives. Is this the standard we have now?
You see, when you want to box the two together, that's where I get a little, I don't know, let me keep my words, because there are two different issues.
Okay.
One, this is one side of the story. The national security has not come out to say anything about it. This one side, the journalist's version of his story, that this is how he was manhandled and whisked to the national security premises. We need to find out, did it really happen? If it did, yes, why would I stand up and stand up for them? I will seriously stand up against that.
We had a press release by the National Security Council Secretariat denying everything.
So now it is their word against his word. I believe there were two people who were arrested. And I read on one other media that the other one was saying he was handled coolly. There was nothing like any form of intimidation. There was no form of brutalism against him. So,
but even the suspects of the kidnapping suspects in the Kumasi, as far as the Canadian girls were concerned, some of them have even come out to say that they were also tortured.
You see, that's one thing we should understand. In fact, I'm not here to speak for the security agencies, but as citizens, we've witnessed one form or the other way people are handled, especially in course of arrest. And there's been time when people have hit the street to go on demonstrations. The late, this guy, I've just forgotten his name. May he so rest in peace. The recent NPP demonstration that let my vote count. That guy who's yes. In fact, you understand, we've had incidents when police had attacked demonstrators, they've attacked individuals, and they term it minimum force. That is what they term it. That they were applying just minimum force on people. We ask, is it fair? I have always strongly come up against it, that it's not fair. It is not right. If it was not right yesterday, it doesn't make it right today. You understand? Okay. It doesn't make it right today.
Thank you.
So we need to probe further and get the whole truth of whatever happened that day. And then I read, in fact, there's a whole story. I learned they're going to take the matter up to court. So wait to see how the court proceedings move on, and then we'll come up with our own.
Now, Nana Oye Lithur, the Private Newspaper Publishers Association of Ghana is calling on the president to halt the growing incidents of threats on attack on journalists and in the media. Is this just a unique case, or is this year a year that journalists are somehow being attacked by police?
Yes, good morning and greetings to all the members and people of Adenta. Number one, I support the call for Honorable Kandapa to resign honorably. He has failed miserably, and this is a blot on our democratic culture. This is a blot on the nation Ghana as the star of Africa. This violation and this torture that occurred contravenes the 1992 Constitution, Article 15(2), that states very clearly that nobody who is arrested or detained should be tortured or should be treated in an inhumane way. Our Constitution is very, very clear on it because of our historical past. And what occurred, I heard on your sister radio station on City, Bernard interviewed the gentleman, is very regrettable, and all meaning Ghanaians should condemn it. And we should read the reports from the Media Foundation for West Africa, which was issued yesterday. Your question was whether it's just unique. There is a consistent pattern of violence, of impunity by the MPP government, and disrespect for the rule of law since the NDC handed power over to them in January last year. Last 2 years, there's been a consistent pattern of impunity, a consistent pattern of torture and assault of public officers and journalists and others going about their normal business.
But don't you think asking for his resignation is a bit of a stretch, because they initially
not a stretch.
Picked him up for cyber crimes related acts, allegedly, not because of the article. So perhaps the Honorable Minister has nothing to do with it.
The Honorable Minister is the head of a portfolio. He has been appointed by the President to be in charge of national security.
And they're investigating cybercrime.
Honorable Kandapa swore an oath and is legally obliged to follow the tenets, respect and protect people, and to abide by the tenets of our Constitution. He is subject to the rule of law, and he has to ensure that his officers implement the 1992 Constitution, ensure press freedom, and more particularly Article 18 on rights of arrested and detained persons, and Article 15(2). So under his watch, if we have national security officers picking up suspects without arrest warrants, without search warrants, you search, you seize people's personal property in violence of the constitutional provisions on the right to privacy. We all have a right to privacy. Without a search warrant, you seize the person's mobile phones, laptops, and what have you. Then you go ahead in broad daylight to put black plastic bags. You cover their heads with black plastic bags. You take them to your offices beyond the 48 hours. You let them stand upside down with their head on the ground. The guy demonstrated it in your studios yesterday.
But Joyce
with their head on the ground.
They could say it's minimal.
It is never minimum. Let's look at the United Nations rules on minimum use of force. and this would actually be maximum. This is like what happened in Afghanistan and what have you, post the wars. And Media Foundation on your radio station, City, even have likened the situation now in Ghana to the situation in the Gambia under Yaya Jammeh. This is so deplorable that over 18 months, we have had 31 journalists, 3-1, 10-10-10, 31 journalists attacked over this 18-month period when MPP has been in power. And we have had 40 victims. We have even had a journalist murdered under MPP government in broad daylight, murdered. And several months later, we don't know, we haven't been told who murdered Swale. Manasseh has had to flee Ghana. It's in the Media Foundation report. And Media Foundation for West Africa have had to put money together to provide a safe haven for Manasseh. It goes on and on and on, and there is a clear pattern. And what is very worrying is that in this constitutional dispensation, where we have a president, President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo, who touts himself as a human rights lawyer, who walked the streets, I can even see the street on which he walked, the Kwame Nkrumah Avenue. He walked that street for Komi Preko. He is presiding over high levels of impunity. President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo is presiding over attacks on 31 journalists. He is presiding over attacks on public officers. He is presiding over thuggery by so-called vigilante groups. He is presiding over disorder and insecurity. Nana Addo Akufo-Addo is presiding over the kidnapping of girls in the Western region.
So do you agree with Prince that the president should be addressing this issue?
He should do more than address. Okay. He should work.
Okay.
He has been elected as a president of Ghana. Okay. We are not happy with the levels of insecurity. We are not happy with the violent attacks on journalists. We are not happy with his MPP government trying to muzzle Ghanaians, trying to control the airwaves, coming up with policies, even on the free-to-air stations.
Please wrap up for us. Thank you.
So what we are saying is that we were not muted by the colonialists. We were able to fight them. And Ghanaians will not keep quiet.
Okay, thank you very much.
We will make sure that our freedoms, our human rights that are protected in our constitution are enforced and protected. If the president will not protect us, we Ghanaians will protect ourselves.
Thank you.
And we will tell him to sit up once again.
Thank you. Now, the Media Foundation for West Africa is threatening a court action over the arrest of the Modern Ghana journalists, and I'll read what they're saying. They are saying that we're a country governed by law, and so when an action constitutes a violation of an individual, then we take it as a responsibility to demand that the right thing is done. That is the basis of our action. I think that authorities act in a certain way because they think they have power to arrest, detain, and keep people arbitrary. But if later it is proven that they just used their power and abused it, I think we need to help such people to enjoy their fundamental human rights. This includes seeking redress from our judicial system. It's something we will not hesitate to do. So this is coming from Sulemana Brima, who is the executive director of the Media Foundation for West Africa. Joyce.
That's a fair deal. At least laws are made for man. And for that matter, it should not cripple us. We should have the liberty to live within the jurisdiction of where the laws have been created. So it was right. I agree with them. They should test the law. But like he's saying, if it's on condition, if only what the guy is saying. So I believe there will be further investigations, there will be further discussions, debates, and all those things to raise up. One, the National Security came out with
their own statement.
Yes. The guys were being investigated on a cyber crime. So let's take up that matter too, and let's see how.
But does that justify the way
no,
they
no,
were
no,
even
no, no.
arrested?
And you know, I just said that if what the guy is saying, in fact, I cannot stand here to say what he's saying is true or not. Because one thing I've come to realize in this country is that, look, if you want to win, just win the public sympathy to yourself, be the first to be out there and make all the necessary allegations and win the public sympathy, and whatever crime you are committing will be shielded under the carpet. That is one thing we also need to be
in
conscious
this
of.
country where people are constantly attacking journalists. Beyond this modern Ghana, a couple of months ago, Hajia Fati slapped a journalist and said she thought she was an onion seller. Even if the person had been an onion seller, does that justify her actions? Why is it that it seems as though journalists are being attacked for no reason?
Well, I'm not going to side with those attacking journalists. It's not right. It is not right. We are all here to condemn whoever perpetrates such heinous crimes on journalists, because they are out there to execute their duties effectively for nation building. But one or two incidents should not also be termed as insecurity and attack on journalists as a whole. No. If we want to go down memory, then we will say that, look, we have past experiences. We had journalists who were killed in Kumasi and all. Look, I can give you countless journalists who suffered under John Dramani Mahama's regime. What about that? Whoever went out crying that, look, because of that there's insecurity in this country, because of that Ghanaians, no. What we all have to come out and speak against the wrongs. That one, I will not shy away from doing that. I will speak against it, because it is, maybe it is you tomorrow. Who knows that the next hour it's not going to be me. You understand? I will speak against it. I will rise up against it.
Should we take a keen... Please continue.
So, okay, you understand. But when we sit on air and want to score cheap political points, then we'll all start marking the sheets. And then we'll make references to past incidents. Okay. Under John Dramani Mahama, we lost 4 chiefs were killed.
But we're under a new administration.
Well, very well, I expect. Yes, I understand.
Just in January, like I mentioned, the report they brought out yesterday, the National Security Office, they're saying that they do not assault people. That's not part of their mandate. But we all saw what they did at the Ayawaso West Wuogon. What is the caliber of people in our national security today?
We all
reevaluate them?
Honorable Kenneth Japan, when he was arrested to national security, and he came out to tell you the treatment he went through. We all spoke against it, and I'll forever speak against it today or tomorrow.
But should that be the norm? That national security operatives are
that should not be
people?
the norm. Yes, I agree with you that should not be the norm.
Why has it become the norm?
Oh, who said it has become the norm?
We're hearing
when
stories
you have one or two
stories.
incidents.
These are what we are hearing. There are others that we probably haven't heard of.
And I said, look, this is one side of the gentleman's story. The national security has come out to debunk whatever he's saying. It is now their words against his word. We need to wait for us to get the nitty-gritties of it. And we know that they're going to investigate, they're going to come out with their findings and all those things. Whatever it is, we'll get the whole story. You understand? But you can't just hold one bit of it and say, justify everything that, yes, everything is out of hand. No. That one, you cannot say that. You cannot box everything together. We pick the pieces as we go along and make sure that we don't have those occurrences, we don't repeat those experiences.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll go for a quick break. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Keep those comments coming with the hashtag Breakfast Daily and the WhatsApp line 0550-585-832. Up next, we'll be looking at Helena Huang getting out of the country. Is it a good thing that she's being sent back to her home country? Is it a privilege that when people like her commit a crime, they are able to leave and then Ghanaians are kept in our prisons? We'll be taking a look at that because a couple of months ago, Aisha Huang was also let go and she had to go back to her country. So don't go anywhere. Breakfast Daily will be right back. Welcome back. This is Breakfast Daily on City TV. Thank you so much for being with us. I have here with me Joyce Zempare, who's MPP's Deputy National Director of Communication, and Nana Oye Lithur, who is former Minister for Gender, Children and Social Protection. Before the break, we were discussing the assault of some Modern Ghana journalists. They're claiming that they were assaulted and tortured, but national security operatives are also denying their claims, and we'll see how it is that journalists are being attacked in this country. Are we doing enough? But then we'll quickly move on to the next topic. Before that, I'll have you both do your closing remarks on the attack on journalists. So,
yeah, basically, I'll repeat my call, and for all Ghanaians to call on Kandapa to resign honorably.
Okay.
He has presided over a state of insecurity. He has presided over impunity by paramilitary thugs. He has presided over abuse and disrespect for the rule of law. He has not been able to handle his portfolio in an efficient and effective manner. And as a result, we have a state of insecurity. And now we have national security operatives torturing journalists by putting plastic bags over their heads and further acts of torture. Please resign. And Amnesty International has issued a statement. Media Foundation for West Africa has issued a statement. Some journalist associations have issued a statement. We're calling on President Nana Akua Ametam to take a personal interest and to unzip and say something as a human rights lawyer on these unfortunate events. We are also asking the Commission on Human Rights and Administrative Justice to also investigate this issue.
Thank you very much. Joyce.
Well, in fact, the name is not popping up. The professor, the former governor of Bank of Nigeria, when he attended the first anniversary celebration and the lecture of our former Vice President, Mr. Atta. He said, look, irrespective of all incidents and things, Ghana still stands to be one of the most secured country on the continent. Ghana is doing well.
Yeah.
So we are assuring Ghanaians that the president under his leadership will do everything to make sure that Ghanaians live so well. They live under a secured environment, and they will have a very fruitful Ghana to live on.
Thank you very much. Now we'll take a look at our next story here. I'm reading from citynewsroom.com. Helena Huang deported after rosewood smuggling case. Now the Chinese national was arrested with 4 containers of rosewood, and she's now being deported. Now her deportation was made known by the Ghana Immigration Service, and we all know that she jumped bail for over 6 weeks before being rearrested, and no formal charges had been preferred against her when she appeared in a Tamale court last week. But she was now handed over to Immigration Service, and she's left the country as at June 26. Right, so she was deported on June 26. And we're asking ourselves, is it fair that when foreigners commit a crime in this country, they get deported? Should we jail them here, let them finish their time, and then go back to their countries? Or this should be the order of day? Nana Oye, I'll start with you on this story.
I don't know who took this decision, but it is very bad. Especially when
this was a Ghana immigration decision.
Well, it's obviously a government decision, because Ghana immigration will not get up. A crime has been committed, like you said. The correct procedure would have been that she's prosecuted, there's an investigation, she's prosecuted, the court hands down a judgment. If she's convicted, she serves her sentence, and then she's deported.
Well,
that
I'm
is
no lawyer.
what happens.
I was just saying that. Is that the way it's supposed to be?
Yes, that is what happens. So I'm surprised that immigration would now suddenly decide to deport her. And that is not good for us as a country at all. We have been advocating for protecting and preserving our environment. Under the NPP government, let's see what is happening. They are seeking to mine in our forest reserve, threatening our water bodies. The NPP government has failed to end galamsey mining, and therefore has failed to protect our water bodies. Now we have foreigners coming in to cut down our wood, our rosewood, preserved rosewood, in clear contravention of our laws. Clearly, we have a good case to take to court. The police have done their job. have investigated. This woman, this Chinese woman, has been arraigned before court. And then, miraculously, immigration now reads their laws and decides that they will deport. Minister of Interior, what is happening here? Are we really serious as a country about preserving our environment? Are we serious about preserving our forest cover and preserving our wood species? This is very clear that this government, MPP government, is not serious and committed to preserving our environment and is applying selective justice. When is a foreigner from a heavyweight country, then they can be comfortably deported to go back to their country and they are not punished. But when it comes to somebody called Afoko, even when a court of law has granted him bail, and even when the court has said he should be released, he is still in cells. This is the selective judgment, the selective justice that the MPP government is dispensing to us in Ghana during their tenure. This is very, very unfortunate, and this is not good enough in terms of sustaining
immigration has the right to say you've come here, you've committed a crime, we're taking your rights to be in this country, go back to your country. They have the right to do that, right? Our immigration services.
This woman has committed a crime. And like any other Ghanaian or any person in Ghana who commits a crime, she has to face the law. Because we want her to face the law, let the court of law judge her so that others are deterred. Okay. Look at the loads, look at the rosewood, look at our forest cover. The same government officials come on air and complain and cry and moan about our depleting forest cover and about our wood and about our timber. The same government officials. And these same government officials under MPP facilitate the deportation. It's a very light and comfortable way.
Okay.
She ought to be punished. And anybody who violates our laws, anybody who commits a crime in our country has to be punished. When I go to China and I commit a crime, do you think that I'll be deported? I will be sentenced and convicted, and I'll be prosecuted, convicted and sentenced, and I'll serve the time. Okay. In Thailand and other places, they even they even jail and kill them. They actually kill foreigners for committing crimes.
Okay.
We should ensure that our laws are respected, especially by foreigners.
Thank you.
Otherwise, we are in trouble.
Thank you very much. Joyce.
Well, in this land of ours, capital punishment is not, I believe it's been out of our laws, capital punishment. And for that matter, when even people are sentenced to death, they still wallow in our jail. So it's one thing we need to take note of. Yeah.
Do you think deportation was an easy way out for Helena Huang?
You see, when she's deported and her resident permit is confiscated, that means she's banned from entering this country.
Yes, but has she paid the price for the crime she committed?
Well, there are times, even the seizure of the things, the goods alone, and the deportation alone, it's also another form of deterrent and punishment to an individual. You understand?
Yeah. You're
looking at the level of maybe the crime committed and all those things. Then you, on your own side, will measure it. I'm not in here to measure weight. Yeah, that's it. But my understanding was, even when she was granted bail and she jumped the bill for 6 weeks, the courts and the police were out there and would make sure the guy who signed the bill bond was dragged to the court, and then he had to produce her. That alone was enough for us. There's been incidents where people have done bail and the matter has gone to sleep. We don't hear anything. The security agencies, immigration office never went to sleep. They made sure this woman was brought back, and whatever she held in this country that was making her a resident permit here has been.
But on the background of Aisha Huang being deported, senior minister coming out to say our relations with China was the essence of keeping this woman, let her go. And then another person, another one, is arrested for committing a crime. Shouldn't she have been used to set an example that irrespective of whatever country you come from, if you commit a crime in this country, you will serve your time, then go back to your country?
First and foremost, there's not been any sentence that has been leveled against her for you to say this was a sentence melted out to her and we didn't allow her to serve that sentence. You understand?
Yes.
So immigration came in and they used the immigration laws to deport her. That's all I can speak on that matter now. Well, on people coming to this country perpetrating crimes and things against our state, in every state there are laws binding it. And when you come entering this country, you need your resident entry visa, you need your resident permit, and even if you have to work, you need your working permit and all those things. I believe this time the immigration service are up to task. They are going around places and things, making sure that people who have violated those things are dealt with. Now, let me come to the main issue where my sister Dev calling on President Nana Oye Lithur. Look, the president is committed the fight against galamsey and illegal felling of trees. In between the year 2012 to 2016, my sister, over 15,000 tons or 20-footer containers of rosewood left the shores of this country. We had a government who sat and supervised all these things. This is a government that has come and then has placed a ban on the felling and export of rosewood. That is the first step. And that is why it gave the police and other security agencies the power to arrest and to make sure that people are dealt with. With the fight against galamsey, we had a government who at the latter part of its rule, realizing that, look, things were not going well, open up for anyone to do mining anywhere in this country. It had to take Nana Oye Lithur to stand. If this is going to cost me, let it be, because we need to save our water bodies. The fight is still on. It's not be easy. I won't come and sit here and pretend that all is well. The challenge is still there, but he is still committed and he's still doing everything possible to make sure that the fight against illegal mining in this country is fought.
Are criminals treated equally in Ghana? If Helena had been a Ghanaian, will she have been treated the way she's been treated, or if she had been a foreigner from another African country?
We've had certain MPs who have been hauled to court and we have
deported her back to her African country.
They have immunity. They have.
But she's not an MP.
Hold it. You are asking whether Ghanaians
are treated equally.
Are treated equally. You didn't say whether Ghanaians and everyone. You said Ghanaians.
You
level it. Hold it.
Foreigners within Africa.
So let me take it one after the other.
Foreigners from a powerful nation like China, for example. Please go ahead.
Well, when you go around the globe, you realize that every country, the way they treat people. We've had incidents to cry the way we have been, even in our own country. When you arrive at our port, our airport, the way we are treated, we always cry. We always cry loud about it. You understand? And I think the laws are there for everyone. Okay. When one is caught up with the laws are there to be dealt with.
Okay.
But the final say lies with the agencies.
Okay.
Who
are in charge of it.
Are in charge of it. So they determine which form of the laws they want to use. Well, let me say that people out there and myself had always tried that. Look, we have people who have embezzled huge sums of money, and all they are made to do is to refund with interest. We have ordinary men who go out to steal maybe a bunch of plantain, and they wallow in jail because they don't have anybody to speak for them. We live in an unfair world. It is with us, but we need to continue to speak up against it and make sure that we get the right things.
Thank you. Now, I'll ask you the same question.
Yes.
Are criminals treated equally in this country?
Well, it doesn't seem so. It ought to be so, because we have clear laws. We have the criminal, the Criminal Procedure Act. We have all the laws, and it ought to be so. But in certain cases, in this particular case of a Chinese national who has committed a crime and who is being prosecuted and who has been whisked away by immigration, it doesn't seem so that criminals are treated. And you juxtapose that with Afoko, who has the court has granted bail and who has been asked to release, and several weeks or months later he's still languishing. He has not been released. Okay. So you can judge for yourself whether or not criminals are treated properly, are treated equally.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now move on to our final topic here, and it's about Parliament getting some, new seater. And we first heard the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Oche Mensah-Bonsu, saying that the state does not intend to spend more than $200 million on the 450-seater new parliamentary chamber. And of course, it's going to be, designed by David Frank Ajayi, who we are all very proud of. But Honorable Alhassan Suhuyini is not too enthused. He's saying that plans for new parliament chamber is a shame. And the reason he's saying that, I'm going to quote him, and of course, Honorable Suhuyini is Member of Parliament for Tamale North. He says, I see a number of schools in my constituency where students are still writing on their bellies, and it breaks my heart. I see women who go long distances to carry water that those who are privileged to be in the position we are in will not even use to wash our cars. For us to have the privilege we have today, not to prioritize their problems and to think of the comfort of where we will sit and work, I think is a shame. So Joyce, I'll start with you here on our 450-seater new parliamentary chamber. Is this something that we need? Is it about time that we got a new chamber, or should we prioritize certain needs like what the Honorable Suhuyini said about kids not having enough resources, mothers not even having something like water, clean water to drink before we think about Parliament?
Very interesting, this guy. Well, in fact, I was asking, was it yesterday, that is it that there's going to be an increase in our members of parliament?
I heard no. I think I read somewhere that no, there won't be an increase.
Then if there won't be an increase, why the need for the new? In fact, I'm so confused about the whole thing. I'm not so privy to it. Yeah, it's so clear on it. That's why I'm finding it difficult to come out with my side of the story. Because I want to find out if there's going to be an increase in our MPs. We know the EC wanted to do, in fact, they've increased the electoral areas. I learned there's going to be an increase in the polling stations. So that can also give way or create room for increasing the number of member of parliament.
Yeah, but the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs, Oche Mensah-Bonsu, is saying that the price is the same. And I'm going to quote briefly what he says. He says, there's a great misunderstanding of the intent of the project. It is not intended by anyone to increase the number from 275 to 450. Nobody's talking about that at all. We want to have a design such that the president will be sworn in Parliament before Parliament. So that's what he's saying. It's not intended to increase the number, but the president will be sworn in Parliament before Parliament itself.
Well, I'm so confused. I'm still at a loss because, but let me. Do
you think we need a new chamber? Irrespective of 250, 450, do you think we need a new chamber?
To me, I would say no. I know my peace will come out. I would say no.
Why no?
Because look, when you watch the British Parliament, and especially in South Africa, you realize that they have just this common chair they sit on. You understand? So because how many hours do they spend in the chamber? You understand? It is the offices and things that they need to have enough space for them to do day-to-day businesses and things. That's what I believe in. You understand? So just looking at that. But let me address a little of Honorable Suhuyini. While he was in Parliament, I believe this thing was agreed by both sides. But, as usual, do we see them running around to play to the public sentiment? We know that, look, there are still towns and villages without schools, without clinics, without hospitals. But let me ask him, I thought under former President John Dramani Mahama, they said they eradicated a school and the trees. They said they had built roads. They said they had finished building all the clinics we need. So what has changed? What is it? Or is it that with President Nana Oye Lithur, he's pulled down all those school structures and all those things? Yes, it's very important. We need to send schools to our villages. We need to send the clinics and hospitals to our villages and our rural and any part of this country needs fair share of the national cake. We need to prioritize every. In fact, if we want to talk, we can't even think about which one to prioritize first before the other, because everything in our life is very, very important to us. Whether it's the hospital, whether it's the school, whether it's I don't even know, health center. Everything is very much needed to us. We need a country that you can move anywhere, anytime, and have everything that you expect to run as a country. Within every community, we believe all the facilities that will make it sum up as a good community.
So you think we should be prioritizing these before we start thinking about a new chamber for Parliament?
No, you understand that
the price tag of $200 million.
We all know that democracy is very expensive. That's why we cannot run away from. If the need be, that's why I say I'm not so privy. I don't have so much detail. If the need be, of course, why not? So let the debate go on, and then let's see how we end it.
Yes, this country wants to progress economically. We are looking at our social development. We're looking at infrastructure, road infrastructure. We're looking at improving social services. We're looking at our human resource, especially looking at access to quality education, so that we ensure that our children and our future generations are well resourced and can manage whatever resources is available to Ghana. So within this context of what we want as a nation, Ghana, how we want to progress and how we want to preserve resources for our future generations, and the tall list, our tall want lists, the things that we have to do as a nation, the economic doldrums we are in, are heavy load of debt, are heavy, and I repeat, a heavy load of debt. I do not think in terms of our priorities, in terms of our needs, in terms of what we have to do to get to the middle income or first class state. In terms of these, I do not think that constructing a 400 or 450 seater parliament is our immediate priority or even a future priority for Ghana. Within the context of our needs as a country, within the context of how we are stretched, within the context of our even sanitation, our inability to even collect our own garbage, our inability and our levels of poverty presently, that people cannot even afford 3 square meals, that the cost of electricity is high, that the cost of fuel is high, that Ghanaians are suffering. I do not think that constructing or refurbishing or building a 450-seater parliament is what we as Ghanaians need. Now.
Thank you very much. Now, I've received some messages from you, so I'll read that briefly. I would advise the Media Foundation for West Africa to note that a government that repealed the criminal libel law and also brought about the RTI law cannot be described in the manner they did. We must stop this media sensationalism and be truthful to Mother Ghana. That's coming from Ketan. And for the first time under a democratic dispensation, journalists are shot dead like Ahmed Swale, and Manasseh Azuri has to leave the country. God save us from this. Okay, all right, okay. This is coming from Fume in Sawem. If the NPP lady says she condemns the brutalities on journalists, the question is, what is her government doing to stop it or punish the perpetrators. This is coming from Billy from Ashaman. Abdul Basit Zongo. Okay, good morning, Joyce Zempare. I don't believe the Modern Ghana guy at all, and I condemn the maltreatment of media men. I have a competent president who never fails, and his name is
Nana Oye
no, he actually says H.E. Able President Adu King. Promise, may Allah protect you. All right. Thank you guys so much for being with us. I was joined by Joyce Zempare, who is NPP.
President Abudani.
President Abudani.
Yes, the one who was able to bring peace and sanity and the throne of
Okay, thank you. NPP National Director of Communication, NPP Deputy National Director of Communication. Thank you so much, Joyce, for always being with us.
Pleasure. You know, I always love to come around.
Thank you.
To sit at the table with you.
And of course, Nana Oye Lithur, who is the former Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection. Thank you as well for being
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too.
Great.
And thank you at home. Do you want to say hi to the people of Adenta?
Hi to the people of Adenta. Hello,
Hey.
Adenta. Hi.
We'll meet you there.
Yes.
We'll meet you there.
Anyway,
She's coming to join us.
we'll be right
My
back.
sister